In the hidden sanctum of your consciousness there exists a voice, not the restless murmur of passing thoughts, but a sacred whisper woven from the threads of eternity. It is the language of the divine, ancient and wordless, echoing through the corridors of time. This whisper rises from the infinite wellspring of universal intelligence, the same force that has guided prophets, sages, and mystics since the dawn of human memory. The great seers knew the truth. The voice of God does not thunder from distant skies, nor hide beyond veils of ritual. It speaks through the stillness within you, from the inner temple of the mind, where sacred insight flows like living water. Sudden knowing, flashes of brilliance, or that quiet tug toward truth, these are not accidents. They are the touch of the infinite, gently stirring your awareness. Across every culture and spiritual tradition, those who walk the path of light spoke of this inner communion. It is not taught, it is remembered. It is not shouted, it is received in stillness. This divine dialogue emerges between thoughts in the silent spaces where the veil grows thin. It appears as the unseen hand that steers you away from danger, the idea that changes your course, the gentle urging that will not let you sleep. But in the clamor of modern life, this voice is often buried, lost beneath the noise of machines, the endless scroll of distraction, and the weight of beliefs that were never yours to carry. And yet this sacred power has not abandoned you. It waits, ever patient for your return. To hear it is not the gift of the chosen few, it is your inheritance. When you remember how to listen, you awaken to the divine within you and align with the same force that shapes the stars. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Part 1. Recognizing the Voice. Chapter 1. The Whisper That Changes Everything. In the fading light of an autumn evening, Eleanor sat in her car at the familiar intersection, her hand hovering over the turn signal. For weeks, an inexplicable urge had suggested she take the longer route home, a thought she had dismissed as mere whimsy. Yet on this particular evening, the whisper grew stronger, carrying a gentle persistence that could no longer be ignored. Following this subtle prompting, Eleanor turned left instead of right. As she rounded a bend in the unfamiliar road, her headlights illuminated a stranded vehicle, smoke rising from its hood. A family, parents and 2 small children, stood shivering in the growing darkness, their cell phones useless in the rural area's poor reception. What appeared as a simple detour revealed its true purpose. Eleanor's presence meant the difference between a night of danger and one of safety for this family. Her car became their sanctuary, and her knowledge of the area guided them to help. The voice that guided Eleanor exemplifies the way divine intelligence speaks through your consciousness. These whispers often begin as subtle suggestions, easily dismissed as random thoughts or imagination. Yet within them lies the wisdom of the infinite, waiting to express through your willing awareness. You possess 2 distinct inner voices. The first, the voice of ego, speaks the language of fear, scarcity, and limitation. It counsels caution, born of worry, decisions rooted in past wounds, and choices shaped by the illusion of separation. This voice grows louder with resistance, demanding attention through doubt and anxiety. The second voice, the voice of the divine, whispers in tones of expansion, love, and possibility. It arrives with quiet certainty, persisting without force. Unlike the ego's urgent demands, divine guidance maintains a gentle presence, waiting to be recognized rather than imposing its will. The difference lies not in volume but in essence. Divine guidance feels like a natural knowing, an inner compass pointing toward growth and service. It may challenge your comfort zone, yet does so with an underlying sense of peace rather than fear. The Whisper Journal practice: acquire a small notebook to carry with you throughout your day. When unexpected thoughts, hunches, or impressions arise, particularly those that persist despite having no logical origin, record them without judgment. Note the time, the nature of the thought, and any accompanying feelings. At Week's Weekend, review your entries. Look for patterns, recurring themes, or instances where these whispers led to meaningful encounters or realizations. Pay special attention to thoughts that prove significant despite seeming inconsequential at first. This practice trains your awareness to recognize the subtle frequency of divine guidance, gradually strengthening your connection to the infinite wisdom that flows through all things. Chapter 2: The Patterns of Providence. Like ripples across still waters, the divine speaks through patterns woven into the fabric of your daily experience. These sacred messages appear as synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that catch your attention and stir your soul. Walter would see the number 618 everywhere, on clocks, receipts, license plates, and even page numbers. At first, he dismissed these recurring digits as mere chance. Yet the number persisted, appearing with such frequency that it became impossible to ignore. Each morning at precisely 6:18, he would wake moments before his alarm, as if called by an unseen force. The number began appearing alongside other signs. A butterfly, always indigo blue, would flutter past his window during moments of deep contemplation about his art. Conversations with strangers would mysteriously turn to discussions of ancient symbolism, the very subject that had fascinated him since childhood. One day, while walking through the city, Walter noticed the address of an art gallery, 618 Mason Street. Inside, an exhibition featured works incorporating sacred geometry and numerical symbolism. The gallery owner, intrigued by Walter's understanding of these ancient patterns, offered him an opportunity to curate a show exploring the intersection of art and divine mathematics. These patterns you notice in your life are not random occurrences. They are the language of the universe, speaking directly to your consciousness. Your mind, infinitely wise, naturally recognizes these patterns. It is part of your divine design. When you align with spiritual awareness, this innate ability heightens, allowing you to perceive the subtle messages woven into everyday moments. The universe speaks in symbols, numbers, and synchronicities because these transcend the limitations of human language. They bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to your soul's understanding. Every recurring pattern in your life carries a message. Every coincidence holds meaning. Every synchronicity points toward your highest path. Pattern recognition practice. For the next 21 days, maintain a synchronicity journal. Each evening, record the patterns, symbols, numbers, or meaningful coincidences you encountered throughout the day. Note the circumstances surrounding these occurrences and any intuitive insights they sparked. After 3 weeks, review your entries, looking for common themes or messages. What numbers appear repeatedly? Which symbols cross your path most often? What situations or people consistently emerge in meaningful ways? This practice will attune you to the divine language constantly flowing through your life, revealing the guidance hidden in plain sight. Chapter 3: The Voice in Dreams. In the depths of night, when the conscious mind rests, the divine whispers through the language of dreams. Through this sacred channel, wisdom flows unimpeded by doubt or resistance, painting pictures in the theater of your sleeping mind. Martha would wake each morning with the taste of salt on her lips, her mind filled with visions of vast oceans stretching to infinite horizons. Night after night, the dreams returned, waves rising and falling like the breath of the earth itself, distant shores beckoning with mysterious promise. The corner office where she spent her waking hours began to feel like a cage, while her dreams filled with the freedom of open waters. At first, she attributed these recurring visions to work stress, attempting to drown them in spreadsheets and meetings, yet the dreams persisted, growing more vivid and urgent. The ocean in her dreams began to speak, not in words, but in feelings, in knowing. The waves carried messages of purpose unfulfilled, of a calling left unanswered. When Martha finally allowed herself to listen, the meaning became clear. Long before corporate success claimed her days, she had dreamed of protecting marine life, of contributing to ocean conservation. This childhood passion, buried beneath years of practical choices, was rising to the surface through her dreams. The sleeping mind opens pathways to divine wisdom that your waking consciousness often resists. In dreams, the walls of logic and limitation dissolve, allowing truth to flow freely. Throughout history, across every culture and tradition, dreams have served as bridges between the human and the divine. From Joseph's interpretations in ancient Egypt to the vision quests of indigenous peoples, dreams have guided humanity toward deeper understanding and purpose. Your dreams speak in symbols unique to your life experience. The divine crafts these messages using images and emotions that resonate with your personal journey. When the same dream returns night after night, it carries wisdom too important to ignore. Dream dialogue practice. Place a journal and pen beside your bed. Upon waking, before the dreams fade like morning mist, record every detail you remember. Note the emotions, colors, symbols, and any words spoken. At week's end, review your entries with these questions. What feelings arose during these dreams? Which symbols or images appeared repeatedly? How might these dreams connect to your current life situation? What guidance or direction seems to be emerging? Through this practice, you open yourself to the wisdom flowing through your dreams, allowing divine guidance to illuminate your path forward. Chapter 4. When Thoughts Arrive Unexpectedly. A gentle breeze stirred through Clarence's garden as he tended his roses, a pastime that had filled his retirement years with quiet joy. Yet on this ordinary afternoon, an extraordinary thought pierced his peaceful reverie. Call Thomas. The name of his brother, unspoken for 15 years, rang through his mind with startling clarity. You have experienced such moments when a thought arrives with an intensity that sets it apart from the usual stream of mental chatter. These divine insertions carry a different quality, a crystalline clarity that commands attention. They arrive not as suggestions but as imperatives, bearing the weight of cosmic significance. For Clarence, the thought came with such force that his pruning shears fell from his trembling hands. The universe was speaking through his consciousness, bridging the gap of years and hurt with a single urgent message. Despite the long silence between them, despite the bitter words that had driven them apart, the thought persisted. Call Thomas now. When he finally yielded to this divine prompting, Clarence discovered his brother in the depths of despair, minutes away from an irreversible decision. That unexpected call became the thread that pulled Thomas back from the precipice, reweaving the torn fabric of their brotherhood. Such interventions reveal the interconnected nature of consciousness itself. You exist within a vast web of divine awareness that transcends the limitations of individual knowledge. Through this cosmic network, wisdom flows to you in moments when you are needed, when your action, however small it might seem, serves as a crucial link in the chain of divine purpose. These thoughts arrive with distinct characteristics that set them apart from ordinary mental noise. They carry a sense of peaceful certainty, even when their content might challenge your comfort. They arise from a place of expansive possibility rather than contracted fear. They serve love's purpose, even when their immediate meaning remains unclear. The divine interruption practice. When an unexpected thought arrives with unusual clarity or persistence, pause and ask yourself these 3 discernment questions. Does this thought bring peace or anxiety? True divine guidance carries an underlying peace even when its message might initially unsettle you. Does it serve love or fear? Divine insertions always originate from and point toward love, even when they require courage to follow. Does it expand or contract my sense of possibility? Authentic guidance opens new horizons of potential, while ego-based thoughts tend to limit and constrain. Let the answers guide your response to these divine interruptions, trusting that the universe speaks through your consciousness for purposes greater than you might initially comprehend. Chapter 5: The Voice That Contradicts Logic. In the heart of the financial district, where numbers ruled supreme and spreadsheets dictated decisions, there lived a woman who discovered that the greatest wisdom often defies calculation. You see, the divine voice frequently arrives cloaked in paradox, challenging the very foundations of what you believe to be rational and secure. This truth manifested in Mildred's life one autumn morning as she reviewed a business proposal that, by every measurable standard, should have been rejected outright. The numbers didn't align. The market analysis suggested caution. Her colleagues advised against it. Yet beneath these logical objections stirred a knowing, a quiet certainty that transcended the realm of rational analysis. This is how divine wisdom often operates, not through the careful calculations of the mind, but through the unified intelligence of heart, body, and spirit. The voice of pure reason speaks in black and white, in definitive projections and risk assessments, but the divine voice communicates through a spectrum of subtle impressions that engage your whole being. When Mildred felt an inexplicable warmth spread through her chest while reviewing the proposal, when her energy lifted despite the concerning figures before her, she was receiving guidance through channels that spreadsheets cannot capture. Against every professional instinct, against the warnings of industry experts, and against the very principles that had guided her career, Mildred chose to trust this inner knowing. Her decision to invest in the unproven venture appeared foolish to outside observers. Yet time revealed a higher logic at work, one that encompassed not just financial returns, but the transformation of lives, the birth of innovation, and the creation of opportunities that no market analysis could have predicted. This pattern repeats throughout human history. The greatest breakthroughs often emerge from choices that seemed irrational at the time. The divine voice leads you toward possibilities that exist beyond the limited scope of human reasoning. It operates from a vantage point that sees the intricate web of connections, the hidden potentials, and the perfect timing that your analytical mind cannot grasp. The beyond logic practice: select a decision where your logical mind and inner knowing seem to conflict. For 7 consecutive days, create a sanctuary of silence for 15 minutes. Sit in stillness, breathing deeply, allowing your analytical mind to quiet. Ask the universe to reveal the higher wisdom that transcends conventional reasoning. Pay attention to the subtle signals that arise, sensations in your body, shifts in your energy, moments of unexpected clarity. Let divine intelligence illuminate the path that contains the greatest potential for good, even if it challenges your rational understanding. This practice opens a channel for wisdom that exists beyond the boundaries of logical analysis, inviting you to trust in a greater intelligence that orchestrates outcomes more magnificent than your limited perspective can envision. Chapter 6: The Persistent Thought. When divine guidance knocks at the door of your consciousness, it rarely arrives just once. The wisdom of the universe operates through gentle but persistent repetition, returning again and again until you finally pause to listen. In the bustling halls of Central Hospital, Stanley encountered this truth through an experience that would forever transform his understanding of inner guidance. Like many in the medical profession, he relied heavily on established protocols and peer-reviewed research. Yet amidst his daily rounds and patient consultations, a peculiar thought kept surfacing, an inexplicable urge to study an obscure medical condition he had only briefly encountered during his residency. At first, he dismissed these thoughts as random mental wanderings, but unlike the typical fleeting ideas that drift through consciousness, this one returned with quiet persistence. It wasn't accompanied by anxiety or urgency, but rather by a calm, steady presence that refused to fade. This represents a crucial distinction in recognizing divine guidance. Obsessive thoughts rooted in fear create tension and anxiety, while divine persistence carries a quality of serene certainty. The former depletes your energy, the latter sustains it. When you receive a message of genuine spiritual importance, it possesses a unique staying power. Like a lighthouse beacon cutting through fog, it continues to shine, regardless of how many times you look away. This persistence serves as a marker of significance. The more essential the message is to your path or purpose, the more consistently it reappears in your awareness. Stanley's recurring thought about this rare condition exemplified this principle perfectly. Despite his initial resistance, the idea maintained its gentle presence until he finally yielded to its wisdom. His subsequent research proved timely, beyond imagination, enabling him to recognize subtle symptoms in a patient that would have otherwise gone unnoticed until far too late. The universe operates with an intelligence that sees beyond the limitations of our immediate understanding. When a thought persists, despite your logical objections, it often carries wisdom crucial, not only to your own journey but to the well-being of others whose lives intersect with yours. The persistence inventory practice. Take a quiet moment each evening for the next 7 days. With pen and paper, record every thought or idea that has repeatedly surfaced in your mind over months or even years. For each persistent thought, enter into a state of contemplative reflection and document your insights, paying special attention to those persistent thoughts that align with a deeper sense of meaning or service to others. Chapter 7: The Voice of Creativity. The language of the divine flows through many channels, and none speaks more directly to the soul than the unexpected burst of creative inspiration. Like a stream of pure light breaking through clouds, these moments of spontaneous creativity often carry messages far beyond their initial appearance. In a small university office lined with mathematical equations and academic papers, Beatrice encountered this truth in an extraordinary way. Known for her brilliant analytical mind and precise mathematical proofs. She found herself suddenly drawn to melodies that seemed to float through her consciousness. These weren't mere tunes. They carried with them complex mathematical relationships expressed through rhythm and harmony. At first, she questioned these unusual impulses. How could someone who had never studied music suddenly feel such a powerful drive to compose? Yet the melodies persisted, growing clearer and more insistent, until she could no longer ignore their presence. The wisdom traditions speak of such moments when the divine mind touches the human consciousness through unexpected, creative channels. The ancient Greeks called it the muse. The Hindus named it divine inspiration. And countless artists, inventors, and innovators throughout history have described moments when knowledge or creativity seemed to flow through them, rather than from them. This creative force often appears in areas where we have no formal training, precisely because it bypasses our learned limitations and self-imposed boundaries. It speaks through pure potential, rather than practiced skill, showing us capabilities we didn't know we possessed. As Beatrice began translating complex mathematical concepts into musical patterns, she discovered that her students grasped abstract principles with remarkable ease. The divine had guided her to bridge two seemingly separate realms, mathematics and music, revealing their underlying unity and creating a new path of understanding for others. When creative inspiration arrives unexpectedly, it often carries seeds of transformation that extend far beyond our personal growth. These divine nudges toward creative expression frequently contain solutions to problems we haven't yet recognized or gifts meant for others we have yet to meet. The creative channel practice. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Set aside 20 minutes each day for pure, unstructured creative expression, whether through movement, sound, words, or images. Allow yourself to create without planning or judgment. Let your hands move, your voice sound, or your body flow according to whatever impulse arises. Keep these guidelines in mind. Release all expectations about the outcome. Resist the urge to edit or perfect. Welcome whatever emerges, however unusual it might seem. After each session, sit quietly and reflect on any messages or guidance that may have come through this creative flow. Document your experiences in a journal, noting patterns or insights that emerge over time. Remember that the divine often speaks through what appears random or meaningless at first glance. Chapter 8: The Voice in Crisis. When life strips away everything you've built, leaving you standing in the ruins of your carefully constructed plans, you may discover that the universe has been waiting for precisely this moment to speak its deepest truths into your heart. In the depths of financial devastation, Harold sat alone in his empty office, surrounded by the remnants of what had once been a thriving enterprise. Years of strategic decisions, countless hours of dedication, all swept away in the merciless tide of economic upheaval. Yet in that moment of complete surrender, when his mind finally fell silent from exhaustion, he heard it. A voice so clear and calm, it seemed to arise from the very center of his being. "Your wealth was never meant to be your legacy," it whispered. The words carried no judgment, only gentle certainty. In that instant, Harold understood that the universe had not orchestrated his downfall, but rather his awakening. The guidance led him to volunteer at a local youth center, where his business acumen transformed into something far more valuable: the ability to mentor young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds. This truth stands eternal. When your world crumbles, you create space for divine wisdom to enter. The universe often waits until your grip on control loosens, until your certainties dissolve, before revealing the greater purpose that has always been waiting in the wings of your awareness. Through Harold's transformation, you glimpse how crisis serves as a gateway to deeper communion with divine intelligence. His journey illuminates the paradox that often, only through losing what you thought you wanted, can you discover what your soul truly needs. The voice speaks most clearly in these moments, not because it grows stronger, but because you finally grow still enough to hear it. When the strategies of the ego prove futile, when carefully constructed defenses crumble, you open to guidance that transcends the limited perspective of personal ambition. The ancient practice of crisis wisdom. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Light a candle if you wish, creating a sacred atmosphere for this reflection. Take 3 deep breaths, allowing each exhale to carry away tension from your body. In your journal, draw a timeline of the major crises or challenges you've faced. Beside each one, note the unexpected wisdom or guidance that emerged during or after that period. What new understanding dawned? What doors opened that you never would have chosen yourself? Reflect on these experiences not as failures or misfortunes, but as moments when the universe created space for new wisdom to enter. Notice any patterns in how guidance appeared during these times. Through this practice, you begin to recognize the crisis not as an enemy, but as a teacher whose lessons reveal the path to your highest good. Chapter 9: The Voice Through Others. When truth knocks repeatedly at your door, wearing different faces each time, the universe reveals its patient determination to reach you through whatever means you'll finally accept. A master potter once shared a tale of 3 messengers who visited a village on the same day. Each carried fragments of an ancient map, but only when their pieces were united did the villagers recognize the path to the hidden spring they had been seeking all along. So it is with divine guidance. Sometimes the message must be reflected back to us through multiple mirrors before we recognize its light. Such was the way wisdom found its way to Doris. Her stories had lived in her heart for years, whispering their desire to be shared with the world. Yet each time that inner voice urged her toward publication, doubt muffled its sound. Not yet, she would tell herself. Not good enough. Then came the weekend that changed everything. First, a stranger in a coffee shop spontaneously shared her regret about waiting too long to pursue her dreams. Later that day, an elderly man at the library spoke of how books had saved his life, lamenting the stories that die unwritten. Finally, on Sunday, a young girl asked Doris if she was a writer, declaring with childlike certainty, "You have that look, like you're full of stories that want to come out." 3 messengers, 1 truth. The universe had orchestrated a symphony of confirmation, each voice harmonizing with the guidance she had long denied within herself. Through Doris's awakening, you glimpse how divine wisdom often arrives through the words of others, not as mere coincidence, but as orchestrated encounters designed to penetrate the walls of resistance you've built against your own inner knowing. These moments of convergence serve as mirrors reflecting back the truth you've been too hesitant to embrace. The ancient practice of messenger awareness. Before beginning each day, light a candle and speak these words. I open myself to the wisdom that seeks to reach me through all channels. Throughout your day, approach each interaction with the sacred question, what if this person carries a message for me? Listen not just to words, but to the resonance they create within you. When something strikes a chord of truth, pause to note it in a small journal you carry. Each evening, review these moments of resonance. Notice patterns in the messages you receive. What truth keeps appearing in different forms? What guidance persists across multiple encounters? Through this practice, you attune yourself to the subtle ways the universe weaves its wisdom through the tapestry of your daily interactions. Chapter 10: The Voice of Resistance. Along the sacred path of divine guidance, wisdom flows not only through inspiration that propels us forward, but also through the gentle force that holds us back. This restraining touch of the universe, though often misunderstood, carries equal power to shape our destiny. Wallace stood in his laboratory, surrounded by diagrams and prototypes of his revolutionary water purification system. Each time he reached for the patent application forms, an inexplicable heaviness settled in his chest. This sensation, neither fear nor doubt, carried a different quality. A calm yet unmistakable signal that whispered, "Not this way." For months he struggled against this inner resistance, mistaking it for self-sabotage. Yet unlike the anxious paralysis of fear, this restraint carried a steady wisdom. As he learned to listen more deeply, the true message emerged. This technology belonged not to any individual or corporation, but to humanity itself. The universe often speaks through such moments of divine resistance. Like a loving parent who gently redirects a child's hand from danger, this guidance manifests as an inner knowing that certain paths, though seemingly advantageous, lead away from our highest purpose. And when Wallace finally honored this resistance, releasing his grip on personal ownership, doors opened that he never imagined. His innovation reached communities worldwide through humanitarian organizations, creating ripples of transformation far beyond what commercial success could have achieved. This form of divine communication, the sacred no, serves not to limit, but to protect and preserve. It guards the purity of our purpose, steering us away from choices that might entangle our gifts in lesser aims. Such resistance appears not as the constriction of fear, but as the steady hand of wisdom, guiding us toward choices aligned with universal good. The sacred no practice. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Bring to mind areas in your life where you've encountered persistent inner resistance. For each situation, sit in silent contemplation for several minutes, breathing deeply and allowing your awareness to settle. Ask yourself with gentle curiosity, what might this resistance be protecting or preserving? What alternative direction might be more aligned with my highest good? Record any insights that arise, paying special attention to answers that bring a sense of peace rather than relief, wisdom rather than escape. Return to this practice daily for 7 days, allowing divine guidance to reveal the deeper purpose behind what appears as restriction. Part 2: Understanding the Voice. Chapter 11: The Anatomy of Divine Thought. The distinction between divine guidance and ordinary thoughts lies not in their volume, but in their quality. Like light passing through a prism, thoughts that originate from the universal mind carry unique characteristics that set them apart from the routine chatter of our minds. In her groundbreaking research, Esther observed how thoughts of divine origin manifested differently in the neural pathways of the brain. These messages arrived with a crystalline clarity that transcended the usual mental noise. Unlike the meandering nature of typical thoughts, divine guidance appeared as fully formed insights, carrying an unmistakable signature of wisdom. Through countless hours of observation and documentation, she uncovered a fascinating pattern. While ordinary thoughts emerge from chains of association, building upon previous ideas, divine thoughts often arrived complete and unexpected, like lightning illuminating a darkened landscape. These insights carried a distinct resonance, a feeling of rightness that transcended emotional reactions. The universal mind communicates through a language of certainty rather than speculation. When such thoughts arrive, they come not with the tentative nature of human reasoning, but with an authority that stems from a higher source. These messages often defy our usual thought patterns, arriving with perfect timing and carrying solutions our limited perspective could not have conceived. You possess this same capacity to discern divine thoughts from mental noise. Your mind, like a finely tuned instrument, can detect the subtle frequencies of universal wisdom. This ability lies dormant in many, obscured by the constant static of daily thinking, yet it awakens through conscious attention and practice. The thoughts that flow from the universal mind bring with them a peace that surpasses understanding. Even when they challenge our current circumstances or beliefs, they carry an underlying tranquility that ordinary thoughts cannot replicate. This peace serves as a reliable marker of their divine origin. The thought quality assessment practice: when significant thoughts arise, pause to evaluate them through these 5 criteria. Origin: notice whether the thought feels like it originated from your own mental processes or arrived through you from a higher source. Emotional tone: observe the feeling that accompanies the thought. Divine guidance brings peace, regardless of its content. Persistence: monitor whether the thought maintains its clarity and strength over time, rather than wavering like ordinary thoughts. Wisdom: examine how the thought aligns with universal principles of love, truth, and harmony. Fruit: notice the results that follow when you act upon such thoughts, as divine guidance invariably leads to positive outcomes, even if not immediately apparent. Chapter 12: When God Speaks in Silence. In the heart of a bustling metropolis, where sirens wailed and phones chirped incessantly, Russell found himself drowning in an ocean of noise. Each day brought endless streams of data, reports, and urgent messages demanding his attention. Yet amidst this cacophony, the most vital guidance remained unheard. It began with a simple act of desperation. One morning, overwhelmed by the constant barrage of information, Russell arrived at his office an hour early. Instead of immediately diving into emails and reports, he sat in perfect stillness. In that unexpected pocket of silence, a thought emerged with startling clarity, a solution to a problem that had plagued his company for months. This experience awakened him to a profound truth. The universe speaks most clearly in silence. Like trying to hear a whispered secret at a rock concert, divine guidance cannot penetrate the wall of noise we build around ourselves. Russell began carving out dedicated periods of silence each day, gradually expanding from 5 minutes to half an hour. The results transformed both his inner and outer world. Solutions to complex business challenges arose spontaneously. Strategic insights appeared fully formed. More importantly, he discovered a deeper current of wisdom flowing beneath the surface of his conscious mind. The ancient masters understood this truth. In temples and monasteries across the world, silence has always been revered as the gateway to divine communion. When we quiet the endless chatter of our minds, we create space for something greater to emerge. This is not the silence of emptiness, but rather the silence of fullness. like the pregnant pause before dawn, when all possibilities exist simultaneously. You too possess this capacity to receive clear guidance through silence. Each time you step away from the noise of the world, you open a channel to the infinite intelligence that surrounds and permeates all things. This guidance awaits you in the spaces between thoughts, in the moments of pure receptivity. The sacred silence practice, begin each day by creating a sanctuary of silence. Start with 5 minutes, gradually extending to 30 as you become more comfortable with stillness. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Eliminate all external stimuli. No music, no reading, no digital devices. Simply sit in receptive awareness, allowing your mind to settle like still water. Keep a journal nearby to record any insights, images, or guidance that emerges during or after your practice. This simple yet powerful ritual will attune you to the subtle frequencies of divine communication that often go unheard in our noise-filled world. Chapter 13. Distinguishing Divine from Delusion. In the shadows of a candlelit monastery, an ancient master once told his student, "Not every thought that glitters comes from heaven." This wisdom echoes through time, reminding you that the path of spiritual discernment demands both courage and humility. The divine voice speaks through your consciousness, yet not every inner voice carries divine wisdom. You possess the innate ability to distinguish between authentic guidance and the echoes of your own desires or fears. This sacred skill of discernment develops not through perfect judgment, but through the wisdom gained from misunderstanding. The truth of this emerges in Harriet's journey. Following what she believed was divine guidance, she abandoned her medical practice to pursue an investment scheme that promised to help more people. The voice seemed clear. The signs appeared aligned. Yet the venture collapsed, taking with it not only her savings, but the trust of those who had followed her lead. In the depths of that failure, Harriet discovered that true divine guidance carries distinct qualities. Unlike the urgent, excited energy of her false guidance, authentic divine communication brings a steady peace that persists even when its direction challenges your current path. Divine guidance often arrives with a clarity that transcends emotional excitement, accompanied by a gentle knowing rather than desperate certainty. Through her experience, Harriet developed a framework for testing guidance. She learned to examine not just the message itself, but its fruits, how following it affected both herself and others. She discovered that divine guidance, even when leading through difficulty, ultimately serves the highest good of all involved, not just individual desire. The voice of the ego demands immediate action, while divine guidance provides space for contemplation and confirmation. When you feel pressured to act without reflection, pause. The universe speaks in a voice that respects your free will, offering direction without coercion. Harriet's story teaches that discernment grows stronger through practice and community wisdom. She learned to share her perceived guidance with trusted advisors who could offer perspective untainted by her own hopes or fears. This practice of seeking counsel became a cornerstone of her spiritual discernment. The discernment counsel practice: choose 3 individuals whose wisdom you trust, people who demonstrate both spiritual maturity and practical judgment. When you receive what you believe is divine guidance, especially regarding major life decisions, share it with your counsel. Listen to their insights without defensiveness, allowing their perspectives to illuminate any blind spots in your discernment. Through this practice of humble sharing and listening, Your ability to recognize authentic divine communication will strengthen and mature. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14, The Voice Speaks in Metaphor. A merchant in ancient times carried precious jewels across the desert. Each night he dreamed of scattered pearls transforming into seeds that sprouted into towering trees. Dismissing these visions as mere fantasies born of fatigue, he pressed onward until the day he realized the dream spoke of a truth his conscious mind could not grasp. True wealth grows only when shared. The universe speaks not only through direct thoughts, but through the rich tapestry of metaphor and symbol. These symbolic messages weave themselves into your awareness, offering wisdom that transcends the limitations of literal understanding. Like light passing through a prism, divine guidance often splits into a spectrum of meaning that your analytical mind alone cannot fully comprehend. Gertrude discovered this truth through her recurring dreams of birds meticulously constructing their nests, twig by twig, weaving fragments into sturdy homes. As a business consultant focused on rapid solutions, she initially saw no relevance in these persistent images. Yet the wisdom contained within these dreams gradually revealed itself. Lasting success requires patient, intentional foundation building. The metaphors through which divine wisdom speaks are not random. They emerge from the unique landscape of your experience and understanding. For Gertrude, the nesting birds carried specific significance because of her childhood fascination with nature. The universe selected this symbol precisely because it would resonate with her personal history, while conveying a universal principle about sustainable growth. When you open yourself to symbolic communication, you discover that every metaphor contains layers of meaning waiting to be understood. The birds in Gertrude's dreams spoke not only of careful construction, but of natural timing, of working with available materials, of creating spaces that nurture future growth. This multi-dimensional wisdom transformed her approach to consulting, leading her to develop methods that honored both immediate needs and long-term flourishing. Divine wisdom often clothes itself in metaphor, because some truths can only be fully grasped through symbolic understanding. Like poetry that captures what prose cannot express, metaphorical guidance opens pathways to wisdom that direct instruction might never reach. The living metaphor practice. In sacred stillness, recall the images, symbols, and metaphors that repeatedly appear in your thoughts, dreams, and daily life. Write each one in your journal. Sit with these symbols in contemplative silence, allowing their deeper meanings to emerge. Ask yourself, what wisdom does this symbol carry for my current situation? What truth is being revealed through this metaphor? Record the insights that arise, knowing that each symbol may contain multiple layers of guidance waiting to be discovered. Chapter 15, The Voice Beyond Words. In the quiet halls of an ancient temple, a young monk struggled to learn meditation from sacred texts. Despite memorizing every instruction, enlightenment eluded him. One day, his master silently placed a flower in his hands. In that moment, without a single word spoken, the monk understood more about meditation than all his studies had revealed. The language of the universe extends far beyond the realm of words. It flows through every fiber of your being, speaking through sensations, emotions, and intuitive knowing that defy verbal expression. This wisdom manifests as a certainty deeper than thought, a knowing that precedes explanation. Florence discovered this truth in her work with the dying. In moments where words failed, she found herself guided by an inexplicable knowing, a wisdom that moved through her hands, heart, and presence. This guidance never arrived as fully formed thoughts, but as subtle impulses that preceded conscious understanding. Sometimes it emerged as a gentle urge to adjust a pillow, other times as an inexplicable certainty about when to simply sit in silence. This form of divine communication operates through what mystics have long called direct knowing, an understanding that bypasses the normal channels of thought and language. Your body serves as an antenna for this wisdom, receiving guidance through physical sensations, emotional resonance, and energetic awareness that your rational mind later struggles to articulate. Florence's experience reveals how this wordless wisdom often proves most reliable in situations where analytical thinking falls short. When sitting with those transitioning between worlds, she learned to trust the subtle promptings that arose, a sudden warmth in her hands indicating where touch was needed, an unexpected sense of peace signaling when to step back, a mysterious certainty about which family member needed to be called. The whole body listening practice. Find a quiet space and settle into a comfortable position. Close your eyes and begin scanning your body from head to toe, noting any sensations, tensions, or areas of ease. When facing a decision or seeking guidance, bring the situation to mind without trying to solve it. Instead, notice how your body responds. Any shifts in energy, changes in breathing, alterations in temperature or tension. Document these physical and energetic responses in your journal, building a personal dictionary of how divine wisdom speaks through your embodied experience. Practice this daily to develop greater sensitivity to the language beyond words through which the universe guides you. Chapter 16. The Voice That Heals. A gentle knowing resides within you, perpetually guiding you toward wholeness. This truth became evident through Albert's journey from darkness into light. For 30 years, he carried the weight of wartime experiences, building walls of protection that ultimately became his prison. Yet beneath his conscious resistance, a quiet voice persistently whispered of forgiveness. This voice spoke not through words alone, but through unexpected moments of softening when he encountered others who had walked similar paths. It manifested in dreams of reconciliation, in inexplicable tears that arose during moments of solitude, in the mysterious draw he felt toward stories of healing and redemption. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, continually creates pathways for your healing. Just as water finds its way through stone, divine guidance flows through the barriers of your resistance, leading you toward what your soul recognizes as medicine. For Albert, this guidance intensified until he could no longer ignore its call. Though his mind argued against the possibility of forgiveness, his deeper being recognized its necessity. As he began to follow these healing promptings, something remarkable occurred. The forgiveness work he feared would reopen old wounds instead revealed itself as the key to freedom he had long sought. Your own healing guidance speaks with similar patience and persistence. It appears in recurring thoughts that invite you toward specific practices or relationships. It surfaces in bodily sensations that signal the need for attention to neglected aspects of your experience. It emerges in synchronistic encounters that point toward therapeutic possibilities you might otherwise overlook. This guidance operates with profound intelligence, often beginning with the very wounds you've been most reluctant to address. It recognizes that true healing ripples outward, transform. Chapter 17. The Collective Voice. Through the ages, wisdom has flowed not only through individual vessels, but through the sacred communion of souls gathered in shared purpose. This truth revealed itself powerfully in the story of Margaret and her community's transformation. In a neighborhood beset by poverty, crime, and despair, Margaret witnessed how divine intelligence operated through the collective rather than the individual. During what began as a simple group meditation to address their community's challenges, something extraordinary unfolded. Each participant received what seemed like fragments of insight. One envisioned a youth mentorship program, another received guidance about unused commercial spaces, while others glimpsed possibilities for urban farming, skills training, and elder care. What appeared as incomplete pieces suddenly crystallized into a perfect whole when shared. The universe had distributed its guidance across many minds, each receiving the portion they were best suited to understand and implement. No single person could have conceived this integrated solution that would ultimately revitalize their entire community. This pattern of distributed divine communication appears throughout history. The great wisdom traditions speak of moments when gathered seekers each received aspects of truth that, when combined, revealed a more complete understanding. Like facets of a crystal catching different angles of light, each perspective illuminates another dimension of the whole. When you open yourself to collective wisdom, you transcend the limitations of individual perception. Your personal channel of divine guidance